Welcome back to This Gathered Schoolhouse. I know it has been a long time since I've uploaded a video. I really appreciate y'all's patience. My goal when I started this channel was to be able to upload twice a week. But as I kind of talked about from the beginning, that this channel would always kind of have to take a back seat to what else was going on in our lives. And so we have just been very, very busy, lots of traveling, lots of things going on. And so I just haven't had a chance to film much for this channel. But I'm hoping that that will change, and we are kicking things back off with today's video, which is just a very simple pros and cons for homeschooling. I know that I get asked, there's a lot of people here who don't yet homeschool, are considering it, thinking about it. I know a lot of you guys are veteran homeschoolers, you've been homeschooling for a long time. So this is really more meant for those who are still in the process of thinking it through, if it's something that they want to do now or in the future or whatever. So what I just thought I would share with you today are sort of and I sat down with my husband and talked to him about this to see if he did he concur with what I thought were pros and cons of homeschooling. Obviously this is going to be a little bit individual for different families. Some of it is just across the board the truth, but other things are a little more individual. So without further ado, let's hop into the pros and cons of homeschooling. Let's just start out with the list of pros. The first big thing for me is the ability to really instill a love of learning in my children. I am somebody who considers myself to be a lifelong learner. I am constantly learning new things, trying new things, craving new information, wanting to understand things more, learn more about subjects that I didn't bother or pay attention to in school. So I love that through allowing my children some flexibility in their education, that hopefully it creates a love of learning for them. Because they have a lot of say, I think, in their education, I feel like that also can really help because they are able to say like, hey, I'm interested in this, I want to learn a little bit more. And you know, homeschooling just lends itself to being a little more individualistic. So that is very helpful, I think, in creating a love of learning. The second thing is obviously the flexibility. That's huge. You guys know we are year-round homeschoolers, so we are able to take time off. Like for example, we've traveled a lot, like I said recently, and so we were able to take time off. We started school back in July, so even though we've taken a little bit of time off here recently where everyone's gone back to school, we're actually still farther in our school year than we would be if we just would have started school with everybody else. So it's really nice to be able to be flexible, take time off when my husband and I travel, either individually or together, or we all travel together as a family, or if we just have things going on that sort of need to take precedence for a little bit. So it's really, really nice to have the flexibility to not just for like the days that we actually homeschool, but also the flexibility in our schedule to not have to be up at 5 a.m. To get everybody ready and on a bus and stuff. It's really nice. The other piece of that would also be being able to work at our own pace. Like I said, it's not just about like the days that we school, but our own pace. If we find something that we are a little more interested in than anything else we've learned about thus far, we can sort of slow it down and really learn more about that subject. That was actually another thing I had on the list, was the ability to like deep dive into things. And I think that kind of goes hand in hand, taking things at your own pace and deep diving when you find something that you're really, or your kids are really, really interested in, being able to say like, okay, we're going to pause and we're really going to dive deep into this because I've got their attention. Like that's the best time to teach kids things, is when they're really like, hey, I'm interested. It's a lot harder to like force feed information to them than it is if their interest is piqued, because then they're kind of like hungry for the information, you know? And that also, again, goes with one of the other things that we find as a pretty amazing pro is just experiences, being able to go to different places, something we learn about in a book, and then being able to say like, hey, we're going to take a field trip there. We're going to, you know, go to DC. We're going to go down to Florida and go to NASA when we do our space unit. Like, we have all these kinds of plans, and sure, not everything always works out, but really being able to add in a lot more experiences, the sort of hands-on things that help kids retain information, is one piece of homeschooling that we really love. And there are lots of families out there who do a much better job of that. I think the larger family you are, it's a little bit harder, but we still try to give as many experiences as we can related to whatever it is that we're learning about. And then, you know, the last thing that I would say for me is time with my kids. I also feel like this is going to go on the cons list too, though. because sometimes then you're just around each other all the time. I love my children and I love being here with them. I love having them here with me. And just the time that we all get together as a family is something that's very, very important to me. I feel like we do live in a world that often pulls families apart with constant, and it's not always something you can choose, but for us we can. So that's the only way I can really come at it from, is that we can choose that we really enjoy spending that time together and having everybody gone at work all the time, and then sports, and then hanging out with friends, and then weekend things, and it's almost like you get very little family time, and that's not something that is a positive to me. I want that family time. I would rather us be like, we're so sick of each other, we need a little break from each other, versus like turning around and saying, we just never spend enough time together. I just feel like when the kids are grown and out of the house, am I gonna say, holy crap, we spent way too much time together, like that was ridiculous, we should not have spent that much time together? Of course not. So I feel like it's worth it for that reason as well. Okay, so let's just jump into the cons. Or just go ahead and take off from that last one, because I do think that that can also be on the cons list, that if you have children, and again, these situations are unique, but if you have children from hard places, if you have children that have maybe some different issues going on, if you have children that are just a little more difficult, that can be hard to be together all the time, because sometimes you do need a break from each other. I think that breaks from people you love is not necessarily a bad thing. It can be a very healthy thing. So that would be one of the cons for me of homeschooling, is that you don't get a lot of breaks from each other. And sometimes the kids need a break from me too. Like, let's not mince words here. Sometimes they're like, I can't handle that lady another second. So that would be one of the hard parts, would be that while we get a lot of great time together, we don't also always get the time apart maybe that we would want or need. Another con on the list would be the massive amount of work and planning that it's been for us homeschooling 5 kids. I have just spent countless hours planning, poring over things, getting things ready, and then you kind of do that throughout the year as you're constantly reassessing, figuring out what you need to change, what you want to work on next, that kind of thing. So there's a ton of work as the teacher, parent, whatever, that goes into planning and homeschooling, at least for us. I realize there's lots of other ways to do homeschooling that people do that don't require as much, maybe unschooling, things like that. But I know a lot of unschoolers who still utilize a lot of time, creating environments and that kind of thing. So I think any way you slice it, homeschooling absolutely has a large element of your time wrapped up in it. So that can be a con if you're a busy person with a lot going on, something else that's vying for your time every day. I also think another con would be that it's very, very intimidating. The truth is that no matter how confident you are, no matter how long you've been homeschooling, I think a lot of us still feel intimidated. We still feel like, are we doing enough? Is this going to be enough? And it doesn't help that there's constantly voices out there saying things to you like, what makes you think that you can homeschool your kids? Or like, people they have a lot of questions and they don't always ask them in the nicest of ways. And they can often be very accusatory and just things that can make you feel like this small, and then also start to doubt yourself and second guess your decision. Like, maybe I'm not equipped to do this. Maybe I can't do this. And you start to panic and worry, and it can all be very stressful when you're trying to do what you truly believe is best for your children, but that expectations of society and people around you and those voices that are kind of getting into your head sometimes can tell you that like you're not doing enough and your kids aren't gonna get the best education, or I don't know. There's just a lot of self-doubt and second guessing, at least for me, that has come in and out in waves throughout my homeschooling journey. And also, let's just be frank, it can be a very, very thankless job. Most of the time, your kids are not going to come to you and be like, oh, thank you so much for that spelling test today. Thank you. Nobody's gonna do that. It can be kind of a thankless job. You pour so much of yourself into it, and anybody who's a teacher was probably like, hello, thankless job. I think most teachers probably feel as though their job is kind of thankless, which is fine, because most teachers don't do it for the thanks or for the money, which is a good thing, because you also don't get paid to do homeschooling. See, mommy came upstairs to film and the baby said, no way. we need our mamas. So she's gonna help me finish out this video. So yeah, thankless type job. Let's see what else. I just had that. The other thing I had written down was just like I said, that it's kind of a thankless job, and that also society's expectations and things can also weigh very heavily on you. So not that she is a mess right now. I feel like most of the cons on the list are truly things that are just kind of like a lot of it's up here. Obviously not the planning and things like that, but just the way that you feel, the doubt, the expectations, all that kind of stuff. A lot of that is just stuff that's like up here in your head. So you have to kind of get, yes. Don't tell me no. So you just kind of have to work through that and over the years build the confidence and stuff to be able to keep going, and to know that if you really feel like this is what's best for your kids, that it probably is. I just wanted to say that as somebody who's been homeschooling for 7 years now, that those voices don't always completely go away. They're often still there, that make you question everything and wonder if you're doing enough. And even if your kids are testing amazing, you still wonder if maybe this area they could do even better in, or, you know, you're just always gonna do that. But I think my biggest encouragement would be is that if you really do feel that homeschooling is the right thing for your kids, that you have to be willing to like sort of push through those things, to focus on the reasons that you decided to homeschool. And I think I've talked about this before, but I think a really important thing to do is to write down your reasons for doing this. Why are you doing this? Why are you so like passionate about doing this right now? And then you can come back to those reasons when you start to second guess yourself and ask, has anything changed? That reason that I had, has it changed? If it hasn't, then you know that it's just a lot of this that's messing with you, versus like, well, that's actually not a valid reason anymore, or whatever. So that would just be sort of my advice. But those are my pros and cons for homeschooling. Like I said, what? I know that they, oh, are you poopy? Those are just my pros and cons. I know that they are different for everybody. That's just sort of our list for our family. So hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel if you're not already. And we will see you guys again very soon for another video on this gathered schoolhouse. Can you say bye? Bye-bye.